It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. The tree is standing tall, the nativity rests above the fireplace, and there's a warm fire glowing against the winter chill. Outside, snow drifts softly across the prairie, and tonight, it's time for a story. This tale is rooted in the historic Oregon Trail landmark of Ash Hollow. It follows a couple of children from the orphan train, a rancher and his wife, and a remarkable dog whose loyalty shines through the storm. The story is called Hope at Windlass Hill. The bell above the feed store door gave a tired jingle as Tom Callahan stepped inside, boots scuffling against the worn wooden floor. The air smelled of molasses, burlap, and the faint tang of salt, a comforting sense of chores yet to be done. He tipped his hat to the clerk, who was stacking bags of cracked corn near the counter. "Morning," Tom said, his voice low and steady. "Need a couple of salt licks." The clerk nodded, disappearing into the back. Tom leaned against the counter, pulling off his gloves. He was thinking about the cattle waiting in the pasture, about the unseasonably warm December sun that had softened the ground instead of freezing it hard. His mind was already halfway home when something cold brushed against his hand. He jerked back instinctively, eyes dropping to the floor. There, looking up at him with a pair of weary amber eyes, stood a dog. Shabby, golden-furred, with ribs faintly showing beneath its coat. The dog's nose was wet against his knuckles, and his tail gave a tentative wag, as if testing whether kindness might be found here. "Well now," Tom muttered, crouching slightly, "where'd you come from?" The clerk returned, setting the salt licks on the counter. He glanced at the animal and shrugged. "Don't know. I've never seen it before." Tom nodded absently, but his eyes stayed on the dog. The animal gave a soft whine, then turned toward the door, pausing to glance back. It was an invitation, plain as words. Tom hesitated, hand resting on the counter, then slowly pushed the salt licks aside. "Put 'em on my tab," he said, already moving toward the door. The bell jingled again as he stepped out into the bright December air. He mounted Judah, his bay gelding. The dog trotted ahead, tail swishing, pausing just long enough to make sure Tom was following. Something about the way it moved, purposeful, insistent, made him believe this was no ordinary stray. It was leading him somewhere. And though he didn't yet know where, he felt in his bones that he had to follow. The dog, still only boy, trotted ahead with purpose, leading Tom Callahan out of town and into the rolling hills. The December air was mild, carrying the scent of dry grass and cedar. The steady rhythm of Judah's hooves echoed along the ridge as Tom rode behind the dog's lead. The horse's ears flicked forward, sensing the dog's urgency. They crested Windlass Hill, where wagon ruts scarred the slopes, deep grooves carved by immigrants lowering their wagons into Ash Hollow. Tom reined Judah in, staring at the marks of history. Families had once trusted ropes and prayer to survive the descent. Now the hollow lay quiet, a place of memory and shadows. The dog stopped at a cedar thicket, whining softly. Tom swung down from Judah and pushed aside some brittle branches. That's when he saw them. 2 children huddled beneath the tree, wrapped in a thin blanket. The boy, tall for his age but gaunt, looked up with wary eyes. His arm was around a little girl, her face pale, lips cracked from fever. She stirred weakly, coughing, and the boy tightened his grip. Tom's heart clenched. "Well now," he whispered, "what's this?" The boy straightened. "We didn't mean no harm, sir," he said, voice trembling but defiant. We just needed a place to stop." Tom crouched. "What's your name, son?" "Samuel Carter," the boy said. "This is my sister Anna." Anna's eyes fluttered open, soft and unfocused. She whispered something Tom couldn't catch, and then buried her face against Sam's shoulder. Sam stroked her hair, protective, older than his years. Tom glanced at the dog who sat nearby, tail thumping once. It was clear now the animal had brought him here, had refused to let these children be forgotten. "You're a long way from home," Tom said gently. "How'd you get here?" Sam hesitated. "They put us on a train, said folks out west would take us in, but they wanted to split us up. Different families. I couldn't let that happen, so we got off at Ogallala. The dog, he found us there and been with us ever since." Anna coughed again, weaker this time. Tom's jaw tightened. He lifted her into his arms, light as a bird and fragile as glass. "You did right to protect her," he said to Sam, "but you can't do it alone." He carried Anna to Judah, settling her carefully against his chest. "Up you go," he told Sam, boosting the boy onto the horse's back. Sam clung tight, eyes wide, as Tom swung into the saddle. The dog trotted alongside as Judah picked his way up the slope, strong and steady. Together, they rode out of Ash Hollow, the rancher, the children, and the faithful dog, toward the promise of warmth and home. Snow had threatened all week, but never come. The December night was mild, the prairie hushed under a sky of stars. Tom Callahan guided Judah into the yard, the bay gelding's breath steaming in the lantern light. In his arms, Anna stirred weakly, her head nestled against his chest. Behind him, Sam clung tight, weary but alert, eyes wide, at the sight of the ranch house glowing with lamplight. The dog trotted faithfully beside them, tail wagging as if he knew the journey was complete. The door opened before Tom reached the porch. Maggie stood framed in the light, apron dusted with flour, her hands still warm from kneading bread. She gasped softly at the sight, her husband carrying a child, another boy sliding down from Judah, and a stray dog padding close. "Tom," she whispered, stepping forward, "what on earth?" Tom's voice was steady but thick with feeling. "Found them in Ash Hollow. Orphan train out of Ogallala. Been on their own too long." Maggie's eyes softened as she reached for Anna, her touch gentle, motherly. "Oh, sweetheart," she murmured, brushing damp hair from the girl's forehead. "You're safe now." She looked at Sam, who stood stiffly protective. And you too, young man. Come inside. There's warmth and food waiting." The children hesitated, as if afraid the welcome might vanish. But the dog gave a sharp bark, nudging Sam toward the door. Well, that broke the spell. Together they stepped inside into the glow of the hearth. The house smelled of pine boughs and fresh bread. A small tree stood in the corner, decorated with handmade ornaments and strings of cranberries. Maggie wrapped Anna in a quilt, settling her near the fire. Sam hovered close, eyes darting between his sister and the ranchers. Tom crouched beside him. "You know, you did right looking after her," he said. "But you don't have to do it alone anymore." Sam swallowed hard, then nodded. For the first time, his shoulders eased. Later, as the clock chimed, Maggie placed a loaf of bread on the table, its crust golden. Tom poured milk into tin cups. The children ate slowly, as if afraid it might be taken away. And the dog, well, he curled up near the fire, eyes half closed, content. When the meal was done, Maggie looked at the dog. "It seems to me he's part of this family too," she said with a smile. "But we can't keep calling him Boy. He deserves a name." Sam glanced at Anna, who whispered faintly, "Hope." Her voice was fragile, but the word carried. Tom and Maggie exchanged a look, then nodded. "Hope it is," Tom said firmly, "because that's what he brought us tonight." The fire crackled, casting shadows that danced across the walls. Outside, the prairie lay quiet, but inside the Callahan home, warmth and belonging filled the air. On Christmas Eve, a rancher and his wife had opened their hearts, and a new family was born. 2 children, a faithful dog, and the promise of hope. But that's not the end of the story. 1 year later, the prairie lay quiet under a blanket of snow, the kind that softened every sound and turned the hills into gentle waves of white. Smoke curled from the chimney of the Callahan ranch house, carrying the scent of pine and bread into the crisp December air. Inside, laughter filled the rooms. Sam Carter, no longer gaunt but sturdy and sun-browned from a year of chores and riding, sat at the table whittling a small wooden horse, his hands steady under Tom's guidance. Anna, her cheeks rosy with health, hummed softly as she helped Maggie string cranberries onto twine for the Christmas tree. The girl, who had once been frail and fevered, now skipped lightly across the floor, her braids swinging, her voice bright. By the hearth, the dog, no longer Boy, but proudly named Hope, dozed with one eye open, tail thumping whenever Anna passed by. Judah, Tom's faithful gelding, stamped in the barn outside, waiting for the evening feed. The ranch had grown fuller, richer, not in land or cattle, but in a kind of wealth that cannot be measured. Tom leaned against the doorway, watching the scene unfold. A year ago, he had ridden out of Ash Hollow with 2 frightened children and a stray dog. Tonight, he stood in a home alive with family. Maggie caught his gaze, her smile knowing, her eyes shining with gratitude. Together, they had lowered themselves into risk, just as the pioneers once lowered their wagons down Windlass Hill and found blessing at the bottom. As the clock struck, the family gathered around the tree. Sam placed his carved horse among the ornaments, Anna slipped her hand into Tom's, her other hand resting on Hope's shaggy head. Maggie lit the final candle, its glow joining the others in a circle of light. Outside, the wind whispered across the hollow, carrying echoes of wagon wheels and footsteps long gone. Inside, the Callahans stood together, a family forged not by blood, but by providence, courage, and love. And on this Christmas Eve, they knew that Hope, both the dog and the promise, would never leave them.